Good afternoon. This is Kurt Beckett, Chair of the Energy Facility Site Evaluation Council, calling our October 15th meeting to order at 1:32 p.m. Ms. Barker, if you could call the roll.
Certainly. Department of Commerce. Department of Ecology.
Here.
Elizabeth Osborne is here for Commerce. My apologies.
Thank you. Department of Fish and Wildlife.
Nate Hamplin for Fish and Wildlife.
Department of Natural Resources.
Maverick Ryan here for DNR.
Utilities and Transportation Commission.
Stacy Brewster, present.
Local government and optional state agencies. For the Hop Hill Project, Paul Crouppen. For the Carriger Solar Project, Matt Childs.
Matt Childs, present.
For the Wallula Gap Project, Adam File. For the Golden Eye Best Project, Robbie Eckroth.
Robbie Eckroth, present.
Assistant Attorney Generals, John Thompson,
Present.
Zach Packer, Talia Tuitt.
Present.
For FSEC staff, I will call only those anticipated to speak today. Sonia Bumpus. Present. Amy Hofkemeyer. Present. Amy Moon.
Present.
Sarah Randolph.
Present.
Sean Green.
Present.
John Barnes.
Present.
Joanne Snarsky.
Present.
Maria Bilkina.
Present.
For operational updates. Oh, Lisa McLean, I'm sorry. Present. For operational updates, Kittitas Valley Wind Project,
Jared Cassidy, present.
Wild Horse Wind Power Project,
This is Sarah Randolph. I'll be giving the update for Wild Horse.
Grace Harbor Energy Center,
Greg Pace, present.
Chehalis Generation Facility,
Jeremy Smith, present.
Columbia Generating Station,
Kelly Elsafagan, present.
Columbia Solar,
Katie Esper, present.
Goose Prairie Solar,
Nelson Jha here, present.
Austria Solar.
John Volts, present.
Is there anyone online for the Council for the Environment?
Yes, Sarah Reineveld and Yuri Curl are present.
Okay, Chair, there is a quorum for all councils.
Thank you. Council, there's an agenda before us. Do I have a motion to adopt it?
Stacy Brewster, I move to adopt the agenda for today's meeting.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you.
Nate Hamplin.
Motion has been moved and seconded. Are there any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
say nay. All right, motion or the agenda is adopted. Next up, we have our minutes from the September 17th monthly meeting. Could I have a motion to approve the minutes, please, Council?
Elizabeth Osborne, so moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second. This is Nate.
Thank you. Minutes have been moved and seconded. Are there any changes or edits to the minutes? I did not, upon reviewing them, have any to suggest myself. Other council members? Looking for hands online. Seeing none. I'll call the vote. All in favor of approving the minutes September 17th, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay.
Aye.
All right, minutes are adopted. So it's my pleasure to both honor a couple of our now former members of the FSEC Council before introducing the replacements that the agencies have brought forward. And as those who have participated in our meetings regularly, Eli Levitt of the Department of Ecology, his last meeting was on the 17th of September, and we briefly honored him then. We will certainly be honoring all of our new former council members here towards the end of the year in a more appropriate resolution in their name. But in particular, I just wanted to thank Lenny Young, who did retire in the month of September, and a longstanding dedicated state employee, and appreciate his public service. And so want to acknowledge Lenny's strong contribution to the FSEC Council over many years as well. And so with that acknowledgement, let me first introduce Blake Nelson, who is representing now the Department of Ecology and is the Southwest Region Manager for the Solid Waste Management Program. And Councilman Nelson, if you'd like to introduce yourself, and again, on behalf of all the council members, welcome.
Thank you, Chairman Beckett. You did a pretty sufficient job there. Yeah, I'm with the Department of Ecology. I'm the Solid Waste Program, specifically the manager for the Southwest region. You know, on a personal note, I grew up in Centralia. My father and grandfather worked at TransAlta, worked at the coal plant there. And although I don't especially be citing many coal facilities, I do have a great interest in energy policy and studied that in grad school. So really excited to be part of the board and to work with you all.
Appreciate that. Thank you very much, Councilman Nelson, and welcome aboard. Next, of Maverick Ryan, who is with the Department of Natural Resources and is the Deputy Director of Tribal Relations. And Councilman Ryan, would welcome you and ask you to introduce yourself and any remarks you wish to make.
Thank you, Chair. Knox, Tixequa, Sites and Squatch, Maverick Ryan Aaliyah, and Cowlitz. That's hello, good people. My name is Maverick Ryan Aaliyah. I'm the Deputy Director of Tribal Relations at the Washington State Department of Natural Resources, proud citizen of the Cowlitz Indian Tribe, and I'm really excited to join you in this work as DNR's representative on this council. A couple things I want to mention, honored to be here representing Commissioner Upthegrove. And in January, when he took office, he outlined his core values in leading the agency. There are 4 of them: respect, professionalism, integrity, and joy. Those 4 values inform decision-making throughout our agency and are what I hope to embody through my participation with you here. In addition to that, there are 2 other primary things I want to say as part of my introduction. One's procedural, the other one's just kind of a personal observation. And to tackle the procedural item first, I want to be transparent with my new colleagues in this body in disclosing that in my employment history, I previously worked at a local consulting firm in Seattle for approximately a year and a half, where I carried the title Manager of Public Affairs. In this role, I provided administrative and project management support to various energy-related projects until I departed the firm in March of 2023. Some of this consulting work included projects that selected the FSEC permitting pathway, including the Goldeneye Battery Energy Storage Project. In addition, although I was not personally involved in Hop Hill Solar and the Horse Heaven Clean Energy Center project, those projects were clients of the firm I was at while I was an employee. I do not want my prior association with these projects to affect the fairness, integrity, and transparency of the council's work. So therefore, I will be recusing myself from participating in any decision-making related to the council's recommendation to the governor on the Goldeneye Battery Storage or Hop Hill Solar projects. I will also recuse myself from council decision-making related to mitigation measures and remaining project design, construction, and micrositing for Horse Heaven. This means that I will not actively participate in the adjudicative hearings or the council's development of adjudicative orders on these project matters. Recusal is both a standard and essential step to support public confidence in the council's proceedings and to uphold the highest ethical standards. My decision's rooted in a commitment to ensuring that all projects are reviewed objectively, free from any perceived prejudgment or bias. And let me assure you, while I will not be involved in the decision-making for those specific projects, I remain fully committed to supporting the council's broader mission of ensuring responsible and thorough evaluation of energy facility proposals and full consideration of all constituencies' perspectives. And then on a personal note, I want to also thank my fellow council members for their understanding in supporting those measures. And I'm particularly excited to be joining the council as an Indigenous person in this moment in time when our clean energy goals as a state and our obligations to safeguarding the treaty and reserved rights and resources of tribal nations feel increasingly set at odds with one another. As has been widely spoken about, the scale of our energy future depends that demands that we find pathways forward together. Last year, I spoke with an elder who has experience in the energy field, and he told me in order to meet our clean energy goals as a state and as a nation, as they're written, we'll have to mine more copper in the next 10 years than we have in the entirety of recorded history. That same elder would go on to remind those in conversation with him that our presence as Indigenous people on these lands predates recorded history. I think these two truths have to find a way to live in harmony with one another in this transition. I'm a person who believes that tribal nations are on the front lines of our clean energy future, not just in our state, but across the West. And I look forward to finding ways in this role to ensure that the state of Washington is able to find mutually agreeable ways to advance our goals now and in the future. In closing, Nox Skulas, thank you, and Cowlitz, I'm eager to serve and excited for the opportunity.
Thank you, Councilman Ryan, and to both our new council members, again, a hearty welcome. And as you can see from a busy agenda today, which I think is probably a trend line and not inherently a new one, but certainly one that's going to be around. So with that, we will move on to our project updates. And with that, the Kittitas Valley Wind and Jared Castay, if you make your presentation, please.
Yes. Good afternoon, Chair Beckett, FSEC Council and staff, and welcome to the new members. This is Jared Cassidy with EDP Renewables for the Kittitas Valley Wind Power Project, and we had nothing non-routine report for the period.
Thank you. Moving on to the Wild Horse Wind Project, Sarah Randolph of our FSEC staff.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Chair Beckett, council members and staff. This is Sarah Randolph, site specialist for Wild Horse. The facility update is provided in your packet. Ms. Galbraith reported at the July council meeting that there is a large tear in one of the base towers, and she will keep us posted as to when they plan on bringing down the turbine. There are no non-routine updates to report.
Thank you very much. Moving on to the Chehalis Generation Facility. Jeremy Smith.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett, council members, and FSEC staff. This is Jeremy Smith, the operations manager representing the Chehalis Generation Facility. I have nothing non-routine to report for this reporting period.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Grays Harbor Energy Center, Eric Pace.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett, FSEC council and staff. Eric Pace, plant engineer for the facility. And Grays Harbor Energy does not have anything non-routine to report for the period.
Very well. Moving on to Columbia Solar, Katie Esper.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett, FSEC Council and staff. This is Katie Esper for Columbia Solar, reporting that we have no non-routine updates.
Thank you. Moving on to the Columbia Generating Station and WNP 1 and 4, Kelly Elsagan.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett, FSEC council members and staff. This is Kelly Elsafagan reporting for Energy Northwest, Columbia Generating Station, and WNP 1 and 4. There are no non-routine updates to report for the reporting period.
Very well. Thank you. Moving on to Goose Prairie Solar, Nelson Gia.
Hi, good afternoon, Nelson here. No major updates to report for the previous month. Nothing to report from an environmental or safety perspective either. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Austria Solar, John Volz.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett, FSEC council members and staff. This is John Volz with Cypress Creek Renewables representing Austria Solar Facility. Construction updates are as follows. Pile and fracking installation is fully complete for the project. Modular installation is ongoing, as well as wiring DC cable installation. We have achieved mechanical completion for the first circuit, and the substation major equipment has been fully delivered. Installation is underway. So we are well on track to achieve full mechanical completion by the end of the year as scheduled. There is one incident, environmental incident that occurred on September 12th. A cement truck entered the project site with a hydraulic leak in the hydraulic hose. The leak occurred from the entrance all the way up to the substation area, probably about 150 yards. We estimate less than 2 gallons were spilled. The spill is identified immediately. Oil catch cans were placed under the truck to catch the oil. The contaminated gravel was obtained and removed. Mechanics were mobilized to site immediately to fix the leak. And once the truck was moved out of the way, the remaining contaminated gravel was removed from the site. So was reported, but fully resolved. That is the only incident to report for the period.
Thank you very much. Moving on to Carriger Solar, and I believe we'll start with a project update from Joanne Snarsky of the FSEC staff.
Thank you, Chair Beckett and council members. For the record, this is Joanne Snarsky, the siting specialist for the proposed Carriger Solar facility in Klickitat County. On June 5th, the council voted to approve sending a recommendation to the governor for the Carriger Solar facility, along with the draft site certification agreement. On August 22nd, Governor Ferguson responded with a letter to Chair Beckett directing the council to do further outreach with the Yakima Nation regarding certain aspects of the draft site certification agreement. In response to this request, Chair Beckett sent a letter to Chairman Gerald Lewis of the Yakima Nation Tribal Council. Chair Beckett's letter directed the tribe's attention to two primary issues as requested by the governor. One, allow Yakima Nation the opportunity to review and provide input on the June 19th, 2025 memorandum from the FSEC chair to the council membership describing the chair and the staff's June 4th, 2025 meeting with the tribe. Give the Yakima Nation an opportunity to provide further input on 5 mitigation measures prescribed by FSEC in the Mitigation Determination of Non-Significance, or MDNS, that are designed to minimize impacts to visual aesthetics, including traditional and cultural properties, also known as TCPs. On September 25th, 2025, FSEC received a response from the Yakima Nation. For the purpose of this update, I will highlight the primary issues brought forward in this letter. With regards to the June 19th, 2025 memo, the tribe asserted that the memo does not convey the depth of the Yakima Nation's concerns with the Carriger project. They stated that unless they can speak directly to the council members through an adjudicative process, our interpretation of those concerns will be flawed and inaccurate. They also stated that the memo does not sufficiently reflect the Yakima Nation determination that the Carriger project by itself, meaning not including future solar developments, will result in significant impacts to TCPs. Finally, they argue that FSEC's practice of not requiring the project proponent to secure a water supply for the project until just before construction fails to meet FSEC's legal obligations to evaluate the project's water sources prior to drafting the site certification agreement. Following their review of the mitigation measures highlighted by the governor's letter, they identified 2 primary concerns along with 2 proposals for resolution. The Yakima Nation asserts that the FSEC imposed setbacks along the roads and adjacent to the Department of Natural Resources managed lands are insufficient to minimize impacts to TCPs. They note the use of natural screening tools are also insufficient to minimize impacts to TCPs due to the area topography. To resolve these concerns, they suggest the council deny approval for all solar panels in the northern portion of the project area and require conservation leases on those parcels. If this cannot be accomplished, they recommend that we withdraw the mitigated determination of non-significance and draft recommendation to the governor and initiate a full environmental analysis. I believe this to mean a completion of an environmental impact statement and an adjudication process. Following review of the letter from the governor and the response received from the Yakima Nation, FSEC staff developed a draft resolution 360 and a revised draft of the site certification agreement. These documents were posted for public review and comment on October 6th, and it will go through October 19th. That document provides a formal response with the details and citations that address the tribe's concerns. I will provide a brief overview of our main draft responses here. In that document, we identify FSEC is not required to hold an adjudicative hearing for a project once expedited processing of the project application has been granted. Carriger Solar was granted expedited processing on May 5th, 2025. Additionally, FSEC has fully considered the Carriger project's impacts on TCPs on its own and cumulatively with possible future solar developments in the area. This information is captured in the State Environmental Policy Act documentation for the project, including the mitigated determination of non-significance and the attached staff memo. Although the Yakima Nation did not cite a specific rule or regulation that it contends FSEC was violating by not requiring a water source be identified until just before the construction, FSEC has completed a full environmental analysis of the project's anticipated impact to water resources. Again, this information can be found in the mitigated determination of non-significance and the associated staff memo. We agree with the Yakima Nation that the Carriger project, as initially proposed, would have resulted in significant adverse impacts to TCPs without mitigation. FSEC maintains that the mitigation that has been proposed in the MDNS and the subsequent 2 revisions reduce adverse impacts to TCPs to a level below significant. Staff are not recommending that the council further mitigate by excluding the northern portions of the project from development and requiring conservation easements. Resolution 360 also outlines our draft responses to the Yakima Nation's 2 options for resolution. A revised draft of the site certification agreement has been prepared following review of the governor's response letter, making more explicit the commitment from the developer to provide the Yakima Nation with grant funding for continued TCP research in the area. Again, these documents have been provided to all council members and are available on our website. The public comment period will remain open until Sunday evening, October 19th. Since FSEC is working to complete all this work within a 60-day deadline the governor requested, staff are scheduling a special council meeting on October 21st for the purpose of council action. That meeting is scheduled to begin at 9 a.m. and will be both in person and virtual. Notice for the meeting will be distributed in accordance with RCW 42.30.080. And that concludes my update.
Very well. Questions or comments from council members for the Carriger Solar project? While I'm waiting to see if any hands get raised, Ms. Narsky or if others on the staff, if need be, noting we've called out the public comment period here, including it at my request probably on the agenda. Just want to make sure we reiterated the comment period, I believe, is still open, but any further just reiteration of that, Ms. Narsky, that would be good for members of the public to hear.
Sure, it was posted on our website and it's available there. Particularly the documents I was speaking of, the draft resolution along with the draft site certification agreement, the revised site certification agreement. That was posted on October 6th, but again, is open through this Sunday, October 19th. I believe it goes to 11:59 p.m.
Very well. Thank you for the updates. Again, any other questions or comments? I don't see any. Last call. Okay. We will move on then to Hop Hill Solar and Mr. Barnes, John Barnes, for the FSEC staff, please.
Thank you, Chair Beckett, council members. This is John Barnes, FSEC staff for the Hop Hill application. This application is expecting supplemental materials concerning project expansion. These materials are needed for a SEPA review and determination. We continue to coordinate and review the application with our contractor, contracted agencies, and tribal governments. Are there any questions?
Thank you. I do not have any at this time. And other council members? Okay, hearing none, we will move on to Wallula Gap. Again, Mr. Barnes.
Thank you, Chair Beckett and council members. This is John Barnes, FSEC staff for the Wallula Gap application. Staff are working with the applicant to complete supplemental wetland report materials that are needed to support the SEPA review for this application. We continue to coordinate with the applicant, and the Yakima Nation Cultural Resource Program staff following receipt of the TCP study regarding identified impacts for the project and potential mitigation. Are there any questions?
Council members for Wallula Gap? Okay. Seeing no questions, we will move on to the GoldenEye battery storage project. Turn it back to Joanne Snarski, FSEC staff.
Thank you, Chair Beckett. Again, this is Joanne Snarski, the siting specialist for the proposed GoldenEye battery energy storage facility in Skagit County. The applicant is currently working on a revised site plan for the facility to better accommodate comments from supporting agencies on water resources and on adjacent to the proposed location. We anticipate that a joint meeting with those agencies and the applicant will occur following the submittal of that revised plan. That's all I have for now.
Very well. Any questions, council? Okay. We will then move on to the transmission programmatic environmental impact statement, and Sean Green of our FSEC staff will provide us our update.
Good afternoon, Chair Beckett and council members. This is Sean Green, SEPA specialist for FSEC. FSEC staff are happy to announce the publication of the transmission programmatic EIS that FSEC was directed to prepare by Washington State Senate Bill 5165, subsequently codified into Revised Code of Washington, or RCW, Chapter 43.21C.405. The final programmatic EIS was publicly noticed, distributed, and published to the SEPA Register on October 7th of 2025, and is available now for any interested parties on FSEC's website. This programmatic EIS generally evaluates direct, indirect, and cumulative adverse environmental impacts associated with different types of transmission facility developments. While, as a programmatic review, it does not propose, evaluate, or approve any project-specific applications, it is designed and intended to be used for future project-level SEPA lead agencies in their reviews of transmission projects to support, standardize, and facilitate the associated project-level SEPA reviews. As directed by RCW 43.21C.408, this programmatic EIS has been structured so that future transmission projects that follow the recommendations developed within are considered to have mitigated for all probable significant adverse environmental impacts addressed in the programmatic EIS. While the final programmatic EIS has been published, staff continue to work on finalizing several support tools that have been developed to facilitate future use of the document, including the eProgrammatic and a resource sensitivity online GIS tool. The eProgrammatic is an interactive website that will provide checklists, bookmarking tools, and cross-references for resource impacts and mitigation strategies discussed in detail within the programmatic EIS. The e-programmatic includes summaries of all resource impacts and mitigation strategies identified in the programmatic EIS, with direct and immediate references to the document proper for more detailed descriptions. This website will also include tools to allow developers to input relevant project details that can populate prepared embedded documents within the site. These summarizing documents can be shared with the SEPA lead agency to facilitate their future review. There are also several guidance documents for developers and SEPA lead agencies providing information on how the programmatic EIS is intended for use by the various parties. The e-programmatic has been developed to make the programmatic EIS more accessible to users and to draw forth the most critical elements identified within the larger document. The Resource Sensitivity Online GIS tool is an interactive version of the resource sensitivity maps prepared for most of the resource sections within the programmatic EIS. This tool will allow users to input location data associated with proposed transmission facilities, and then be presented with data showing what potentially sensitive environmental resources that facility may interact with. These resources have been assigned sensitivity levels from 1 to 3, with 3 being the highest, based on input from subject matter experts. This tool is intended to be used primarily by developers during the siting phase of their projects to identify potential points of environmental impacts and avoid them when practical, or prepare mitigation strategies prior to application submittal. It can also be used by SEPA lead agencies to identify potential resources of concern when reviewing projects, though further environmental review of anticipated actual impacts would be needed at the project level. For both of these online tools, FSEC staff is working with WATEC to finalize various elements and prepare hosting support on FSEC's website. Staff intend for these tools to be online and accessible to all interested parties in the near future. FSEC staff are also currently coordinating with staff from the Department of Ecology to organize a series of external engagement sessions with industry and county planning departments across the state. The objective of these sessions is to introduce the programmatic EISs recently produced by our two agencies to anticipated future users. These sessions would provide an opportunity to proactively engage with these users to provide guidance on the expected use of the documents and answer any questions that may arise. Are there any questions from the council?
Thank you very much, Mr. Green. I would see if there was any further way you could characterize when the online tools would be available in terms of a couple weeks or 2 months. I think it's nearer term, but if there's any further clarification, we won't hold it to you if you exact day, but
I don't have an exact date, but I would anticipate in the next weeks to few months. Would that be accurate, Amy?
I don't think I have anything more definitive than that at this time.
But if it's more than a few weeks, maybe we could have a further conversation, just to kind of, know what we land on. Having had a little insight from a conversation I had with staff several weeks ago now. I think it's a tremendous resource for all parties and the public, and obviously at times, yes, more experts in the field. But while applicants may be natural to use it, I think a lot of other important, both public agencies and just any number of parties that are interested on where should energy resources go or not go. Obviously, where we can use built environments like existing transmission corridors are important, but at the same time, if there clearly are needs out there, this kind of a tool is one that we would hope could be maximized for its benefit before an application is ever made to FSEC or even coming into a pre-application process. So I think that's the vision of what you've brought forward. We appreciate it. I would note there are some functionality that is not included, as I understand it, in the current tool based on scope and budget, but it doesn't mean that platform and the collective and ultimately public investment in it is one that I believe can be leveraged. So just want to note that while we're here. And with that, I would thank my colleagues on council and would ask if there were other comments or questions. Councilman Pamplin.
Great. Thanks, Mr. Chair. And to Mr. Green, just congratulations on getting this across the finish line. The programmatic EIS is no small feat, and really appreciate this is kind of the forward thinking that we want to see to inform project applicants of where they might site transmission facilities. And just like to echo the chair's remarks about the utility of the the online tool that you described. That sounds really cool. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman. Other comments or questions from our council? Okay, then we will move on to the Horse Heaven Wind Farm, and I'm going to turn the chair and gavel over to Stacy Brewster from the Utilities and Transportation Commission. And in this instance, I'm going to go ahead and step away for a moment for the Horse Heaven item. And with that, Chair Brewster, I will turn this to you.
Thank you. Do we have an update from staff to begin with?
Afternoon, Chair Stacy Brewster and FSEC council members. Following the council discussion at the September 17th council meeting, staff prepared a draft resolution to implement the 0.6 mile buffer for the nest locations on which the pre-operational technical advisory group, or PTAG, reached consensus, and B, implement a 2 mile buffer for 4 nest locations that were identified on a confidential map. In coordination with our Assistant Attorney General, FSEC issued for public comment draft resolution number 357 titled Horse Heaven Wind Farm Site Certification Agreement Implementation, partly approving and partly denying proposal to construct primary infrastructure within 2 miles of documented ferruginous hawk nests. This was drafted to meet the site certification agreement referred to as the SCA. Appendix 2, mitigation measure for special status species 5, the ferruginous hawk, and we shorten that to Spec 5 when we're casually talking about it. The Spec 5 mitigation measure does not allow siting any wind turbines within a 0.6 mile radius surrounding ferruginous hawk nests that are A, documented in the Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife Priority Habitat Species Database on the effective date on the SCA, or B, identified in the certificate holder's nest surveys, and or C, newly established by the species between the SCA effective date and the time of construction. To recap, draft resolution 357 as drafted approves the certificate holder's request to site primary components within 0.6 to 2 miles of 38 nest locations and denies the certificate holder's request to site site turbines within 0.6 to 2 miles of 4 nest locations. The resolution declines to make a decision on 2 nest locations as the SCA didn't authorize the placement of primary components within 1 nest area, and the certificate holder is not requesting approval to site primary components within 2 miles of a nest location in which a pair of ferruginous hawks fledged young in the spring of 2025. The draft resolution was issued September 30th, and a public comment period was open from that date, September 30th, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. until October 13th, 2025 at 11:59 p.m. FSEC received a total of 56 comments. The comments included general opposition to the project and concerns over a wide range of topics that are outside the scope of Resolution 357, including property values, viewscape, light pollution, water usage, noise, cultural resources, wind reliability, landscape, misappropriation of funds, FSEC procedures, goals of local comprehensive plans, and PTAG meeting guidelines. Comments were also received in support of maximum buffer distances allowed and support for the PTAG role and recommendations. Does the council have any questions or comments on the information presented thus far? So now I'll introduce FSEC State Environmental Policy Act Specialist Sean Green for a report on SEPA comments.
Thank you, Amy. This is Sean Green, SEPA Specialist for FSEC. During the public comment period for this draft council resolution, FSEC received comments questioning the relationship between the current advice presented by the Pre-Operational Technical Advisory Group, or PTAG, and by FSEC staff for the implementation of the Species 5 mitigation measure and the final environmental impact statement, or EIS. Staff just want to confirm for the council and the public that all recommendations being provided by the PTAG are to support FSEC's implementation of existing mitigation measures already defined in the final EIS and the Site Certification Agreement, or SCA. There is no new mitigation being developed. The PTAG review is technical in nature and is being done to ensure that Species 5 and other mitigation measures are implemented as specified within the SCA. We also received comments indicating a belief that the current PTAG work on Species 5 would necessitate FSEC producing a supplemental EIS. As outlined in Washington Administrative Code, Chapter 197-11-405, 4B, a supplemental EIS shall be prepared when there are substantive changes to a proposal so that the proposal is likely to have significant adverse environmental impacts, or there is significant new information related to a proposal's probable significant adverse environmental impacts. The work currently being performed by the PTAG and FSEC staff does not meet either of these criteria. There are no proposed changes to the project at this time. The project is being refined in accordance with the conditional exclusion areas already provided for by Species 5 in the SCA and final EIS. The outcome of these nest-by-nest determinations will not cause the project to expand or contract in any way that was not already evaluated and anticipated in the final EIS and the SCA. The request presented by Scout with technical input from the PTAG did not include new field data or survey information, with the exception of the one new nest occupied this year, which was a possibility anticipated by the terms of Species 5. All of the information that the PTAG has considered regarding nest locations, habitat availability, foraging ranges, and more was included in FSEC's environmental review of the project and published in the final EIS. What Scout is presenting and the PTAG is advising on is a more refined technical interpretation of whether or not the existing data indicates that ferruginous hawks are likely to successfully return to specific nesting sites. The decision that is presented to the council by Scout's request and the PTAG's advice on that request fits within the framework of the existing SEPA analysis and the Site Certification Agreement, and there is no need for a supplemental EIS at this time. The council's decision on Scout's request will not change the project's design or layout as beyond what was already evaluated and approved. It is possible, but this is just speculation at this time, that Scout could present a request to amend the SCA to change the project design. If that were to happen, then FSEC would have a proposal before it that would need to be evaluated under SEPA, possibly by way of a supplemental EIS. If there are any questions regarding the relationship between this resolution and SEPA, I can answer them now. Otherwise, I will pass things off to our legal counsel, John Thompson, to address some of the other comments that we received that were more legal in nature.
I don't have any questions. I don't see any others from council members. I think you can go ahead.
Yeah, so again, this is John Thompson, Assistant Attorney General. I wanted to address a couple of legal arguments that were raised in the public comments, specifically from the Benton County comments and also to a degree from Yakima Nation's comments. The first was an assertion that the Benton County council member that was appointed during review of the application for site certification should still be sitting on the council for this decision. And the second argument I wanted to address was that the PTAG's meetings should have been conducted under the Open Public Meetings Act with notice and an opportunity for the public to attend. So first to the assertion about the participation of the Benton County member, which was Ed Frost. The FSEC's authorizing statute provides that when the council receives an application to site a facility in a county, the county has an opportunity to appoint a representative during the review of that application. The statute says that that county council member shall serve until there has been a final acceptance or rejection of the proposed site. But when that occurs is when the governor makes a decision either accepting or rejecting. In this case, accepting or approving the application for site certification and executing the draft site certification agreement that was presented to him. That occurred last October. And in November, FSEC staff thanked Mr. Brost for his service and let him know that he didn't need to attend any further meetings. His name hasn't been called on roll since then. And there hadn't been any assertion by Mr. Brost or the county previously that he should still be sitting on the council until comments were submitted by Benton County on Monday, expressing the opinion that he should be sitting on the council. The argument the county makes is that although the statute provides for acceptance of the project by the governor, that in this case they argue that the council basically deferred or punted the siting of the project to the PTAG, at least in part, and therefore, because in their interpretation, the final acceptance of the site hasn't occurred, Mr. Brost or another representative from the county should still be on the council. However, this is really a mischaracterization of what the SCA provides. The site is approved by how the statute uses those terms. What we're now dealing with is the implementation of a mitigation measure that established these conditional for the protection of ferruginous hawks, established these conditional project setbacks from historic hawk nests, and it specified how that contingency was to be resolved by a request from the certificate holder with input from the PTAG, and the relevant consideration is whether there's still a viable nest site and whether there's still viable habitat surrounding the nest. So that was the information that was received from the PTAG, and it's the implementation of a mitigation measure rather than approval of the siting of the facility. So there's really no basis, in my opinion, to the county's assertion that the county representative should still be sitting on the council for this decision. Turning to the OPMA argument, this was an argument that Benton County made in an early objection to the formation of the PTAG. So we were aware of this argument from the county. However, based on the language of the Open Public Meetings Act and interpretations of it from the courts, it's my opinion that these meetings were not required to be conducted under the OPMA. The OPMA applies to the meetings of the governing bodies of government agencies, and it does apply to committees thereof when the committee acts on behalf of the governing body, conducts hearings, or takes testimony or public comment. The PTAG did not take public comment. It didn't conduct hearings, and it also is not exercising decision-making authority on behalf of the council. What it's doing is it's providing technical advice for the council's consideration to make a decision on the certificate holder's request to site primary infrastructure within these conditional buffer areas. So that I just wanted to address those two legal topics, and if you have any questions about that, I'm happy to answer those.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from council members? I see Mr. Nelson has raised his hand. Go ahead, please.
Thank you, Chair Brewster. I just wanted to thank Mr. Thompson for explaining about the requirements, I guess, around Mr. Brost's participation, because that did cause me some concern reading the public comment. Chair Brewster, would now be an okay time to address the public comments in general?
Do we have anything else from staff before?
I believe Ms. Moon has further update about the public comments received.
Okay. Councilmember Nelson, it sounds like we have further updates from Ms. Moon, and then we'll.
Thank you, Chair Brewster. Staff are not recommending changes to the draft resolution as the result of public comment. However, minor changes to improve readability and transparency are proposed. In addition, some clerical errors were identified and are corrected in the red line version of that draft, as well as the addition of a clarifying footnote recommended by legal counsel. Additionally, on September 29th, staff received a corrected facilitator report that's from the PTAG, in which a clerical error identifying 45 nests was corrected to 44 nest locations that were in question. Staff have proposed editorial changes throughout the draft resolution to reflect this correction in the nest location number. And staff also propose an edit to improve readability, which includes a summary table indicating the number of nest locations subject to each portion of the council decision. The summary table presents group identifiers in the form of alphabetical, group A, B, C, and D, for the nest locations that are discussed within the resolution. Does the council have any further questions on that? On anything?
Council members, I see Mr. Pamplin has raised his hand.
Yeah, thanks, Madam Chair, and thanks, Ms. Moon. Appreciate that the edits that have been made thus far in terms of readability and the clarity. I really appreciate the table regarding the various groups binning the different Frugious hawk nests. I think that's very helpful for the reader of this. A minor item in the scheme of thing, but just something I want to call out just because this is a resolution, is there's several places in the document that references the Priority Habitat and Species Database, or PHS, and sometimes it is listed as PSH, and sometimes it is referenced as Priority Species and Habitat. For instance, on the screen that's displayed right now under the first paragraph under the resolution. So just ask as you go through and make the various edits that we also just correct the formal name of the database as well as the abbreviation. Thank you.
Any additional questions or comments from council? Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Chair Brewster. I just wanted to wait till the entirety of all the information was shared. Regarding the comments, I just wanted to thank everybody who took time to comment. In at least 3 of the comments, there was concern about, well, there was concern A about new council members reading the comments. I can assure you I've read all the comments or the original application, relevant exhibits, even though it is just resolution 357 ahead of us today, in front of us today. But I read every comment, and to that point, the comment I do agree with is 3 times or 3 days, 2 or 3 days from the end of the comment period to the voting meeting is a pretty dang tight turnaround to read all those comments. So as my predecessor, Eli, would often hammer, would be, I'd advise something like a 15-day standard comment period would be great, and then perhaps a week minimum for board members to review comments, just to make sure that people know, just to make sure that folks are completely satisfied that they've been heard, because I do appreciate every commenter.
Thanks, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I would like to echo the sentiments. I do appreciate all the comments made by folks. I did take time to make sure and read everything, and I appreciate the comment allowing some more time for review of the comments. I believe going forward we can work to increase our time for review. Do we have any other questions or comments from council members? Seeing none, Ms. Moon, are you?
Yeah.
So thank you, council, for your input and discussion and helpful comments. I would now request that, or I would like to request, if the council may, to vote to adopt resolution 357 as amended.
Okay. Well, so that brings us to the opportunity for consideration of resolution number 357, partly approving and partly denying the proposal to construct primary infrastructure within 2 miles of documented ferruginous hawk nests. We have reviewed the draft and the amended draft. Is there a motion to adopt resolution 357? Councilmember Pamplin?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move that the council adopts resolution number 357 as amended by staff and including the edits that were discussed today. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Nelson. It has been moved and seconded that the council adopt resolution 357 as amended and discussed by staff today. Is there any discussion? I'll say that I appreciate, again, the very detailed and specific information presented by the PTAG and incorporated into the resolution. I feel the recommendations by staff are appropriate and provide the maximum protection for the designated nests that should take the 0.6 to 2 mile radius. We have any other comments? We'll hear those now. Seeing none, we can go ahead and vote. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. And that was an aye from me as well. Do we have any opposed? Hearing none, the resolution is adopted. Was there further updates from staff? Ms. Moon?
Thank you. I have one more 4-7 update. I want to let the council know that staff are currently reviewing wildlife survey plans as required in the site certification agreement. That's part of the mitigation efforts. The plans discussed and reviewed by the PTAG currently in FSEC review are for mitigation measures spec 1, which is for the striped whip snake, spec 4, burrowing owl, spec 8, the prairie falcon, spec 10, the black-tailed jackrabbit and white-tailed jackrabbit, spec 12, the Townsend's ground squirrel, and wild 10, the pre-construction bat monitoring plan. These plan reviews are essential for initiating time-sensitive surveys, and FSEC anticipates more PTAG submittals to meet the mitigation measure requirements in the SCA in the near future. Does the council have any questions? Last update?
Any further questions from council members? Seeing none. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
Thank you, Councilwoman Brewster. So we will have our next item, which is a presentation by Maria Belkina, the FSEC staff. And I believe we may have another outside guest. I'll look to staff to help detail this further on the Cascade Renewables Transmission application.
Rebecca and council members, for the record, my name is Maria Belkina, siting specialist assigned to and reporting on the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project. On Monday, October 6th, Cascade Renewable Transmission LLC submitted a formal application for site certification to the council for a high voltage direct current transmission line to be located within the bed of the Columbia River and along the shores of Cliqueta, Skamania, and Clark counties. The project also includes approximately 7 miles of upland trenching in Skamania County. The project previously underwent pre-application review as required by RCW 80.50.380. FSEC has now begun its formal review process and is coordinating efforts with the Oregon Energy Facility Siting Council, the Army Corps of Engineers, our consultants, and contracted state agency. The application is currently being reviewed for completeness and compliance with FSEC statutes and rules. Public informational meetings and land use consistency hearings will be scheduled within the 3 counties within 60 days. Additionally, FSEC is finalizing memoranda of understanding with the Oregon to coordinate environmental review and permitting efforts. Thank you. And the applicant is also on the line to provide a brief introduction.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Belkina. And I'm sorry, could we have our outside project participant please state your name for the record? And with that, you're welcome to continue with your presentation.
Thank you. My name is Chris Hocker. I'm with Cascade Renewable Transmission, LLC. And on behalf of the applicant, I want to thank the council for your time and attention. And I will try to be brief. I know that my time is limited, so I will not take up too much of it. But I appreciate the opportunity for a very brief presentation. Maria, are you running the slide?
Yes, I'm.
Mr. Hocker, I
Okay.
believe our staff
There
will
we go.
advance it for you.
All right, thank you. This will just give you sort of an idea of what the project is, why we're doing it, and what the current status is. The project is shown on this slide, runs from the Dalles, Oregon, the Big Eddy substation of BPA, east to west, along the Columbia River. It will be buried in the sediment of the Columbia River, about 10 feet deep. It will exit the river to bypass the Bonneville Dam. That's the yellow part of the map shown. It will re-enter the Columbia River down to Hayden Island and then proceed via burial on land to a converter station and ultimately interconnect to the Harberson substation, which is owned by Portland General Electric. The facility would carry approximately 1,100 megawatts of energy that's generated east of the Cascades to customers west of the Cascades. Next slide, please. There we go. This is sort of a zoom in on the part of the project that affects on land Washington State. The project would exit the river in Stevenson, would primarily use State Route 14. Everything would be buried. There would be no visual impact at all. It would use State Route 14 before cutting over around the Bonneville Dam and re-entering the river south of the, or I should say west of the Bonneville Dam, as shown. The entrance and exit from the river would be accomplished by horizontal directional drilling. So again, there would be no visual impact on the land in Washington. Next slide, please. Could I get the next slide?
This is FSEC staff Andrea Grantham. It's taking a minute for it to switch over to the next slide.
Okay.
There it is.
I think we have it on.
There we go.
screen now.
So,
Hocker.
thank you. So why are we doing this? I think it's been pretty well established that there is an urgent need for transmission, new transmission in the Pacific Northwest. I won't belabor all of the information that has been publicly available, except to say that there's a number of factors that contribute to this constraint on the transmission grid. But one of the sort of underlying factors in looking at a project like this is the passage of the CETA legislation in Washington and similar legislation in Oregon, which moves the both states in the direction of 100% clean energy. And there are interim goals that were set in those pieces of legislation. So since virtually all of the major scale utility or renewable generation is located east of the Cascade, there simply is not enough existing transmission to move that renewable energy, clean energy over the Cascades to the west where the load centers are. Next slide, please. So this slide may not be intuitive to understand immediately, but basically what it's saying is that this is the current transmission system. Most of the flows, the major flows, go from east to west, as is shown by those sort of blue semicircles. There are a number of proposals by BPA and others for transmission upgrades. Those are sort of indicated by the ovals as circled there. All of those upgrades will be needed. None of them have progressed to the permitting stage. They're in the early study phase. So even under BPA's analysis, the first of those upgrades may be done in the early 2030s. So there is a real constraint and a real time constraint in getting new transmission across. If you look at the green, sort of the bright green line, that's us, that's the Cascade project, and it's intended to help alleviate the transmission constraints by going directly really past Portland and to the north-south corridor, if you see sort of those purple lines. So if by getting to the north-south corridor west of Portland, that helps relieve the north-south constraints, including limitations on what can get up to the load centers in the state of Washington. So I want to sort of address really quickly the idea that this is simply something to serve the city of Portland or the state of Oregon. It is not. It is a system-oriented partial solution to the very serious transmission constraints that exist. And it will help with 1,100 megawatts of new transmission capacity to alleviate not just the east-west constraints, but also the north-south constraints. And it can do so before the BPA and other transmission upgrades can be accomplished. Next slide, please. Very quickly, who are we? I'm with a company called PowerBridge. We have developed, financed, permitted, and built two comparable projects on the East Coast between New York and New Jersey. They have been in operation respectively since 2007 and 2013. They are both underwater and underground transmission projects that are comparable to this one. We are the lead developer for Cascade Renewable. Our partners include Sun2O, which is an experienced renewables developer, and also NextEra Energy Transmission, which is the leading publicly traded utility and renewables developer. And it also owns and operates an underwater and underground transmission project comparable to this one that currently runs under San Francisco Bay and has been operating since 2010. Next slide, please. So I won't belabor this one. There's already been some public attention shown on this project for all the reasons stated. Meeting the renewable energy goals, helping to relieve transmission constraints, and improving resilience and safety of the grid by going underwater and underground. Next slide, please. Very quickly, this is what the underwater cable looks like. If you look at the right-hand corner, this would be a bundle of 2 cables that are less than 6 inches in diameter. That is shown on the left-hand photo. That is the actual installation of one of our projects here. It's called the Neptune Project. And 2 cables about 1 foot in diameter are bundled together with fiber optic cable. And so the impact to the river is minimal. It's and we'll show you on the next slide. And if I could have the next slide. There we go. Thank you. It's installed using that technology called a hydroplow. It is the cable is paid off the back of a vessel into a hydroplow that executes a narrow trench by fluidizing the sediment in the river. The cable is simultaneously laid into the trench to the required depth. In this case, it'll be around 10 feet. About 75% of the sediment is fluidized and it settles back down into the trench. So the impact to the river as a whole is very minimal, and it is temporary during the construction period. Next slide, please. So where are we? As Maria indicated, we have filed our application, and that is currently under review. That's only been in the last week or so. There is a comparable siting certificate application that will be filed hopefully by the end of this month with the Oregon Energy Facility Siting Council. We also are under the jurisdiction of the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers with 2 major permits, the Section 408 and the Section 404. And we have filed the 404 and the 408 and are proceeding with the Army Corps. And we have done a lot to encourage coordination among the various agencies, state and federal, to assure that everyone sort of is on the same page in terms of what the project is, what it does, and just as important as anything, what the potential impacts might be or might not be. So we have held a number of coordination meetings with the agencies and with the tribes, and we'll continue to do so. And I know that the Corps of Engineers and Washington FSEC and Oregon FSEC have been in communication on a pretty much regular basis, again, to assure that a project which is complex and involves a lot of different jurisdictions can be evaluated on not an expedited, but a coordinated basis, so that it minimizes, confusion and misunderstanding. So we have done everything we could to encourage that, and I know that the agencies have been very receptive to that. Next and final slide. In addition to helping to meet the renewable energy goals, clean energy goals, and to help relieve transmission constraints, a project like this does have additional benefits. There will be a number of construction jobs. There will certainly be property tax benefits to the affected jurisdictions. There will be partnerships to encourage workforce training and education. And we're entirely open and have been in conversation with tribes and stakeholders to look at partnerships to essentially leave the river and the surrounding area better off than when we started. So with that, that is my hopefully brief presentation, and I appreciate the time.
Thank you, Mr. Hawker. Appreciate presentation. I think it's very clear and helpful. That's my perspective on what I've seen here first time today. Are there other comments or questions from council members? Well, none at this time, it seems, but if anyone changes their mind, raise your hand. I'll keep an eye out, as will staff. Were there other comments that staff wanted to add, either Ms. Belkina or Ms. Bumpus or Hofkammeyer?
Thank you, Chair Beckett. This is Amy Hofkammeyer for the record. I just wanted to reiterate that staff will be reaching out to schedule the informational meetings and land use hearings for each of the counties, getting availability for council members. And once the details of those meetings are available, they will be noticed for the communities to be able to attend.
Thank you for noting that early, and let me add a further word to it just for the benefit of the public and transparency. Ultimately, what that translates as, we will have public meetings in about 3 counties on the Columbia River sometime here in the November, early December timeframe. And so for those of you who wish to participate in those, let me just kind of make it plain and simple that we'll be down on the river sooner than later, as part of our commitment, not only to being out in the communities. Obviously, it's also a statutory requirement, which we will fully comply with, but ultimately isn't actually the basis, I think, of our motivation. It's one that, to me, reflects the work of FSEC for a long time. So with that, last call for comments or questions. Certainly more work ahead, and the council will take its appropriate steps in terms of its objectivity and review as we go, and look forward to kicking off that important first public step. So in addition to today's discussion. So thank you. Moving on then to our other items for the day. First, we will start with Sonia Bumpus, our director on cost allocation. And let me just note, when you're finished with that, we'll soon move on to changes to the public comment period. So I think unless there's questions, which we can pause for on cost allocation, we'll just turn this to you, Sonia, to cover your items.
Thank you. This is Sonia Bumpus. Thank you, Chair Beckett and council members. Good afternoon. For the update on the non-direct cost allocation, these are the percentages for second quarter fiscal year 2026, covering October 1, 2025, December 31, 2025. And I'll just note that one of the changes to the cost allocation since you saw it last is that we've added the Cascade Renewable Transmission Project, for which you've just heard an introduction on. So we have Columbia Generating Station at 20%. Horse Heaven, 10%, Cascade Renewable, 8%, Chehalis, 6%, Grays Harbor 1 and 2, 6%, Carriger Solar, 6%, Golden Eye, 5%, Wallula Gap, 5%, Columbia Solar, 4%, Austria, 4%, Goose Prairie, 4%, Top Hill, 4%, Kittitas Valley, 4%, Wild Horse, 4%, Watoma, 3%, WNP 1, 3%, Badger Mountain, 2%, and High Top, 2%. That concludes my update on the non-direct cost allocation. If there aren't any questions, I'll go ahead and proceed with a update to the council about some of the changes that FSEC staff are working on with respect to our public comment process.
And I don't see any hands raised on the first item, so please proceed.
Thank you. This is an opportunity here to just update the council on some of the things that staff have identified as changes to how we conduct our public comment process. I'll just go over the Open Public Meetings Act here briefly. It was amended in 2022. So under the Open Public Meetings Act, or we refer to as OPMA, FSEC's required to give the public an opportunity to comment before the council takes a final action on any measures that the OPMA defines as a final action. So this is a collective positive or negative decision or an actual vote by a majority of members of a government body when sitting as a body or entity upon a motion, proposal, resolution, order, or ordinance. And so as this council knows, and as we've talked about in the context of holding public comment periods, the nature of our work is such that the council has a wide range of issues that you're making decisions on or taking final action. And it includes finalizing and producing documents that capture these decisions, recommendations to the governor, including the draft site certification agreement, various council orders, other decisions related to land use consistency decisions in our adjudicative process, the issuance of air and water permits, which are required for our facility operations. So we've identified a number of things that we needed to improve. The one being, the consistency in conducting public comment under the OPMA on documents that, like the ones I just mentioned. So having consistency there, the outreach that that's involved, where we're communicating to the public and others about the public comment period that we're going to hold and what that's about, and being clear about that, and giving notice early as possible so that people know that that public comment opportunity is coming. And then, of course, being clear about what the decision is about, what the documents are that are related to that public comment. One of the things that we also had identified, and Councilmember Nelson, Councilmember Brewster both mentioned this earlier, is that we also have instances where there's not very much time after the comment period's concluded to review comments and figure out how to respond to them. And so I will tell you right now, before I get into some of these changes, a few of the changes we've made so far, that we're still talking about that. We're still trying to set what we think should be sort of the minimum, but I think we're looking at something like a week, where we want to give ourselves a full week to give time to review comments, digest those, and consult with legal counsel and others about what we need to do with those. So we're still working on that. So stay tuned on that one. But a couple of things I did want to share in this update is that the first thing we did was we've committed to ensuring that documents that are going to be considered by the council for a final vote are published with a minimum 14-day public comment period, unless we determine that there's some unique reason that it should be shorter or longer in duration. There also may be cases where there's a public comment period that's already mandated by regulation. And so, of course, in those instances, that is what we would follow. But for public comment under the OPMA, we're going to commit to a 14-day public comment period. And as I mentioned a while ago, I think that we're going to be looking at giving ourselves about a week minimum to look at comments and have that turnaround time. A couple of the other updates I have to do with our website. We launched a new website earlier this year, and with the launch of that website, We have already made some changes to it where we're prominently displaying upcoming items that are coming before the council. So those changes have already been made on the website, but there are a number of others. We're also, we're still working out glitches, but we've been able to use the features of our new website to link the public comment campaigns to the actual associated documents. So that's helping with the navigation and finding the documents that are associated with those public comment periods. With our prior website, the functionality was a little bit different. And with the new design, we've got better capabilities there. We're also working on a few other things related to this, which have to do with the wording on the website, but also the wording in our public notifications. So for instance, when we send notifications out about council activities and actions, public comment periods through Gov Delivery, we're working to sort of plain talk and more succinctly explain what we're doing as part of that notification. So that is gonna, that update to our council notifications is gonna transfer over to also the website, making sure that we're being succinct and really kind of getting to the point, if you will, about here's what's going on, here's what we've got in front of us, here's the document you need to look at, and here's how you can comment. One of the other things that is also related, that is still in the works, I think we're going to need a little more time to work out the details, but we're also working to develop a multi-month public calendar that we'll post on our website. And so the idea here is that we've got a calendar up there that people can access that will tell them what's going on at the upcoming council meeting, but also what we're anticipating, sort of a tentative schedule for what's coming to the council the following meeting. And we're internally discussing how far out we want to forecast and can, provide a useful forecast. Because of course, if we try to forecast out too far, it just becomes very tentative and it's not very useful. We don't want that. So we're looking at focusing right now on the current upcoming meeting, what's coming up, and then the following meeting. And then just noting that this is our tentative agenda. So we're working on this calendar. And as I said, we're going to be communicating this information on our website. So the minimum 14-day comment period, that we're making a commitment to do that. And then also we need to add the turnaround time. One last comment I'll make, I don't know if there's any questions, but I think that one of the things that's going to be really great about these changes that we're making is not just for consistency and clarity, and I think that's going to help with engagement with the public, but also I think it's going to help inform the project schedules. We've talked a long time here at FSEC about sharing major milestones for projects that we have before us. There's a lot of steps to our process. We have for a long time wanted to be able to share project schedules and share those milestones so that people can plan and prepare to engage the council members, all of us. And it's difficult when you don't have all of those standard timelines in place. So I think by creating these sideboards around this process, we're going to have the ability to provide more information about key milestones for the projects that are before us. And that concludes my update on public comments.
Well, thank you. That's a very good update, I think, and expect that'll be reflected potentially in another couple comments here. Let me just make a brief word, and then I'll turn this to other council members for their comments and questions. I want to thank you, Director Bumpus, as well as all the staff for ultimately supporting, internal changes that I don't think are new to FSEC, but certainly there's been a focus on that, and certainly one that I've advocated for and appreciate here it is on full display, including the new website that certainly I think we all appreciate. I want to recognize started long before I became the new chair. And so celebrate that earlier work as well as more recent and ongoing work. And I just want to acknowledge, while that's always been a part of your work, I think it's a further focus and taking that on amidst all the challenges that come with projects that have long been in FSEC's file, if you will, like Horse Heaven. Obviously, there's a new application on a small modular reactor. That's not a small issue on any day, if not generation, for all of us in Washington, no matter where that lands in terms of decisions. Just the process alone on that project is significant. And I think the project we just heard on transmission being considered in the Columbia or around the Columbia River, again, just that alone is a significant impact to the agency. And so I just want to recognize that, as well as council members who have feel that impact too. But obviously the staff, as well as our outside partners and sometimes contractors, get swept into that. So I just want to acknowledge that work and encourage whatever we can do to continue it. Ultimately, 14-day comment periods, which I'm committed to, and review periods, they don't make time certain outcomes easier. And for those that want to know that FSEC can hit its statutory mandate, that is, I don't think we've quite achieved always, and that is a year turnaround on our projects, which I don't know if that was a realistic objective with respect to the legislature back in 1970. But nonetheless, I think there's a theme there that we should maintain, but how to balance that and all the complexities of these individual projects is hard work. And so thanks for letting me share that. That I'll turn it to my fellow council members for anyone who has a question or comment. Or maybe I made enough for all of you anyway, so. Looks that way. Okay, so with that, let's move on to the update on the delegation authority, and Amy Hofkemeyer will provide that update.
Thank you. I have a brief update for you on the delegation of authority policy 16-01 that was approved by the council on June 25th of this year. On August 15th, the Yakima Nation filed a petition for judicial review with the Yakima County Superior Court. Friends of the Columbia Gorge and Tri-City Cares also filed a petition with the Clark County Superior Court. Staff will be recommending additional clarifying language be added to the policy to make more transparent FSEC's practices around pre-construction and pre-operation plan reviews. Staff plan to prepare these edits and post a track changes version of the policy on October 27th for a 2-week public comment period ahead of the November 19th council meeting. Are there any questions?
I would just again say thank you for living out just what was described on the prior item. So as well as those dates were provided here today on the 15th of October in public. So appreciate that. Other comments or questions on the delegation of authority by the council? Seeing and hearing none, we will move on to rules discussion and CR 101 action by the council, which I trust that Lisa McLean will further explain that term.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
For the record, Lisa McLean, the Legislative and Policy Manager and Tribal Liaison for FSEC. I wanted to provide you all and the public with an update about our upcoming plans on rulemaking. As background, last year, in May, we completed a year-long housekeeping rulemaking process. That initiative involved a thorough review of all chapters of Title 463, WAC. That's the section of the Washington Administrative Code that relates to our rules. The changes that were introduced at that time were aimed at aligning FSEC's rules with its statute as it was amended in 2022, as well as aligning it with important statutes such as the Public Records Act, the Environmental Health Law Reorganization Act, and other laws that had changed in the last 20 years since we had done such a major overhaul. With that update down, we are done. We are now digging down into the rules to ensure that all of the rules have the appropriate level of and accurate guidance as to formal and informal procedures that FSEC uses to implement its statute. We've identified a few chapters that we believe could benefit from amendments in order to clarify the procedures and practices of the council. And those chapters include Chapter 463-30 WAC, which is about the adjudicative proceedings. We are looking to clarify expectations about that process, to clarify, to bring it up to date with current technology, and to make it clear how the proceedings are rolled up into a complete record of decision-making that becomes part of the recommendation to the governor. Okay, so those are some of the changes that we're going to seek to pursue with amending that WAC. The second WAC that we're looking to amend is Chapter 463-6-60 on application. We'd like to see if we can provide guidance on the value and the process of pre-application. And then the third one is Chapter 463-72, which is about site restoration and preservation. We feel the need to clarify important details on the financial insurance process. So we plan to initiate the rulemaking by submitting this month a pre-notice inquiry, which is commonly referred to as the CR 101. The filing of that form with the Code Revisor's Office and its publication in the Washington Register will begin a process of public and tribal engagement to develop and adopt amended language. We expect this process to take anywhere from 6 months to 1 year. Are there any questions?
Well, thank you for the update. And again, I think a lot of theme here today on those evolutions that have in some cases been underway for a long time and some in more recent. So appreciate that update. Are there other questions or comments from the council for Lisa McLean? Okay, well, obviously more of a heads up of things to come. For some, I know there's been more focus perhaps than any party might expect on some of those matters. And so certainly, welcome that proactive engagement before, we get into the specific work. So if there are other outside parties that have questions in the interim or want to make contact with us, we certainly welcome and encourage, early questions or thoughts about those matters that Lisa just described. Director Bumpus, I don't think there are other items, but let me check with you in case anything popped up.
I don't have anything in here.
All right.
Really hope I don't.
Are there other closing comments from council? And I see Councilman Pamplin has his hand up.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And just as we're wrapping up, I just wanted to see if there was opportunity here to request some time. I look to you and Director Bumpus, perhaps at the November or December council meeting, where we schedule some time under the kind of the other business section of our agenda to discuss some of our other processes. A couple of the areas that I'd just like to flag and realize we're late on time now, but just the kind of categories of process ideas that I would like to deliberate with the council. One is whether it is required to ask project proponents to attend the FSEC monthly meetings to provide updates when there are no non-routine issues to report. I'd like to understand if there's another way to receive those updates where we don't ask, about a dozen people to call in, unless there's some sort of regulatory requirement that I'm not aware of for the project proponents to give those updates. Second is to consider occasionally inviting presentations from other agencies, such as an update on programmatic EISs being pursued by Ecology, or perhaps a regional energy demand forecast, an update relative to our status as a state in meeting our state's clean energy goals, or even the Department of Fish and Wildlife's new wind and solar energy guidelines. I think this would be essentially pretty minimal work on FSEC staff, as we're asking others to come in and brief us with short presentations. I think that information is germane to the work that we do at FSEC and provides context for a number of the decisions we make on the council. I'd also recommend that we schedule those when you have the new year at a glance, where we don't have lengthy council agenda items, where we're spending time on deliberations, but we add those in on meetings where it's not quite as busy. And then finally, another process idea I'd like to discuss with the council is sometimes when we make motion language or make motions, I should say, it's important that we use very precise language, specific times or specific legal action. And it'd be helpful to have that draft motion language as a member of the council. I don't know if there's a way we could include that, for instance, on the summary sheet for the project, which also signals to the public that are monitoring FSEC deliberations of what the council staff recommendation is. And then as needed, we can edit that motion language on the fly. But it's just helpful, I find, in other intergovernmental forums to have that language in advance of a meeting. So anyway, I offer those as just ideas for a future discussion, hopefully later this fall, of some other process improvements that I hope to work with you all on. And I'm happy to work with the director or you, Mr. Chairman, to flesh those ideas out for further discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Pamplin. I think those are welcome suggestions. Obviously, the execution of them is always part of the detail on top of some of the other demands we've discussed here today. But I think they're important, opportunities, and some of which I know have been discussed in perhaps years past in terms of like the regular cadence of the meeting. I'm mindful of people's time and resource, for that kind of routine. So I think more to come on all those, and really appreciate you bringing those forward, more formally here in the appropriate shared environment, including with our two new council members as well here today. So were there other comments or questions from the council? Okay. Well, soon we will gavel this out, and Councilman Ryan and Councilman Nelson, you can chalk up your first FSEC council meeting. So congratulations. And with that, at 3:13, we are adjourned.